an accomplished academic leader for a number of years. After his PhD, he was principal at what was then Negest, is now the Africa International University. And he went from there with a deep sense of call from God to start the Université Bilingue du Congo, Chrétien du Congo, in Beni, in Eastern Congo. And as the co-founder of both the university and the Congo Initiative. And so for many years as their president, and is now the president emeritus of both the Congo Initiative and the university. Jean, slightly younger than David, we have to say. Jean did his PhD with OCMS, did a brilliant piece of work revisiting Nehemiah from a post-colonial context, and is currently the academic dean at the Université Chrétienne Bilingue du Congo. And most importantly, is married to Linda and has 3 lovely sons. So we are really delighted that both of you have made time to join us. I should add that Dr. David Kasali is also a trustee of OCMS, and we are very excited that he will be giving the graduation talk at our graduation, which is coming up in just a few weeks' time. So over to you guys. I think we've able to set up your PowerPoint here. Is that right? Oh, we haven't. Oh, we haven't. So you may have to do it from there.
Yeah, I did send up an email already, an attachment to Dr. Sarah. I hope she'll get it soon. Thank you.
Okay.
I am trying to post my emails and I haven't got it, but yeah. Oh yes, now it is here. John, I'm still waiting to receive it in the computer. We are sharing it. Meanwhile, you can start, but stop the sharing and start talking. Then I will share it the moment I get it. It will come soon.
Okay, thank you.
Friends, it's a joy for John and I to present to you our reflection that we are calling Hope Against All Hope, a reflection on the context of the Democratic Republic of Congo, our country. For us, this is not only a presentation, an academic presentation, but this is a matter of our life and our calling and our service. So we are sharing from our hearts and our experience. I will share the general parts, and John will share on what we are doing here as an organization to bring our responses to the context of Congo. We will start with the context of DRC. DRC is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Our country, DRC, is the second largest country in Africa by land area, situated in Central Africa, bordering by 9 countries. That by itself is already a challenge, and overlapping the equator. It's home to over 100 million people, making our country one of the most populous nations in our continent of Africa. The DRC is also one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world. We have over 200 ethnic groups in our country. That's quite a lot, and we speak so many languages. The country's vast geographical landscape includes dense rainforests, fertile river valleys, and mineral-rich landscapes. Unfortunately, despite its immense potential, our country remains one of the poorest countries in the world in terms of the GDP per capita. The DRC's natural wealth is so immense. It possesses an estimated 70% of the world's cobalt reserves, along with substantial quantities of copper, coltan, gold, diamond, oil, name it, it's all here in big quantity. Its rainforest is the second largest in the world after the Amazon and serves as a critical carbon basin in the fight against global climate change. Yet, this abundance has often been described as the paradox of plenty, where natural wealth has not translated into natural prosperity for the people. Just the opposite. It has attracted foreign exploitation and eternal conflicts. And that has been our history. It's a history of corrupt and systemic exploitation. The DRC has a long history of corruption and systemic exploitation of both its people and its natural resources. That's very important to know. Both people and natural resources have been exploited through the years. This begins with the arrival of the Portuguese explorers in the land, then called the Congo Kingdom. While initial exploitation were based on official agreements with the kingdom's rule of Congo, they soon became the transatlantic slave trade, which took away an estimated 5 million Congolese people. The abolition of slavery in the 19th century brought some kind of hope for renewal. Nevertheless, colonial exploitation immediately started with King Leopold II of Belgium. And that was a brutal rule over the Congo Free States from 1885, which resulted in the deaths of millions of Congolese. And importantly to our history, it established exploitative systems of labor and governance. The Belgian colonial administration continued to suppress indigenous agency and centralized control of economic and political life until independence in 1960. The colonial infrastructure designed for extraction rather than investment and development left a weak foundation for post-independence governance in Congo. So, since independence, the DRC has faced turbulent political trajectory. The rule of Mobutu Sese Seko in 1965 to 1997 was a time of authoritarianism and patronage networks, rampant corruption, effectively scraping out state institutions while enriching the few elites. Mobutu's time was really a kleptocratic state in which public office was used for private gains, and the development efforts were undermined by mismanagement and the taking away of the resources by those in power. The collapse of Mobutu regime led to a series of conflicts from 1997, most notably what is called the First and Second Congo Wars from 1996 to 2003. This involved numerous neighboring countries around us, leading to the deaths of over 5 million Congolese people, primarily due to disease and starvation. The post-war era witnessed continued insecurity, especially in the eastern region, which is our region, where dozens of armed groups fight for control of territory, but also of mineral resources. These conflicts are fueled by a combination of local grievances, national political instability, but also international demand for the strategic minerals that we have in this country. As of today, there are over 120 armed groups. Yes, over 120 armed groups operating in the Congo, but especially in our area of the east of Congo. The most dangerous and the terrorist kind are two: the Allied Democratic Forces, called the ADF, which has continued to kill people in our area of Beni here, and the M23, both of which originated not from Congo, but from our neighboring countries. On January 31st this year, the M23 launched war in Eastern Congo and captured our capital city of the eastern state of North Kivu, called Goma, claiming the lives of over thousands of people, while thousands more have been killed by the ADF since 2014. And the M23 have gone to take even the city of Goma, Bukavu in South Kivu. In December 2023, certain Corneille Nangaa that we respected so much, the former Electoral Commission president, he formed his own rebellious group called the Alliance du Fleuve Congo, AFC movement, and then they joined forces with the M23. These armed groups exemplify the fact that the DRC's natural resources have consistently been a source of external interest for illicit groups, mining between power active.
Jean.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, now better, yeah, because the video wasn't, the quality wasn't good. Now continue, please.
Yes, undermining state authorities and economic sovereignty of this country. Global supply chains, particularly in the technology and energy sector, have the demand of conflict minerals that is so much in our area. The absence of transparency and accountability in resource government remains a fundamental challenge for peace and development, especially in our area of Eastern DRC. In sum, the context of the DRC is shaped by complex interplay of historical legacies, geographical interests, socio-economic inequalities, but also resilience of grassroots people who refuse to die but continue to survive. Understanding this context is essential for any meaningful engagement in peace building, development, academic inquiry, and any other effort related to this region, unless we understand what this region is all about, our efforts will be superficial. So, what are we observing today? The impacts of the conflicts in our society. In the post-conflict landscape of DRC, particularly in our province of North Kivu, but also South Kivu and north of us in Ituri, we observe the convergence of physical insecurity, economic insecurity, social fragmentation, and deep, very deep psychological trauma among the people. These realities are not only the visible effects of war, but also the hidden ongoing dynamics shaping Congolese society and our efforts in pursuit of peace. So let me give you some of the impacts of the conflicts in our society today. One, fractured social trust and communal life. These are pillars of our society. Social trust and communal or community life. This is what we are made of, but they are fractured. One of the most pervasive consequences of extended conflict is the erosion of social trust between ethnic groups, within local communities, and between citizens and the states. I'm afraid to say, even within the church. The recurring nature of violence, often fueled by contested land rights, political manipulations by politicians, scholars describe as social acts, are replaced by fear and self-preservation strategy. Our people live in constant fear and strategies to survive. Second consequence is the widespread trauma and psychology of violence have left profound psychological wounds across our population. The Eastern DRC has been described as experiencing collective trauma, where repeated exposure to violence, displacement, and sexual abuse have led to intergenerational mental health crises and issues. Rates of post-traumatic stress disorder, the PTSD, depression, and anxiety are alarmingly high, particularly among survivors of sexual and gender-based violence. As our own Denis Mukwege argue, the body of the woman in Congo has become a battlefield. And yet medical responses are often not complemented by a holistic psychological and spiritual care. Third consequence, impacts. youth marginalization, and aspirational crisis. With over 60% of our population being under the age of 25, DRC youth represent both its greatest potential, but also its most urgent challenge. Limited access to quality education, limited access to economic opportunities, and civic platforms has led to widespread alienation of our youth. This exclusion of the young people creates conditions where armed groups and criminal networks offer them little income, offer them the sense of identity and belonging. Again here, these are two important themes in Africa: a sense of identity and a sense of belonging. I belong where? What is my identity? And because the society and the tribe do not give this identity, have stopped to give this identity and a sense of belonging, the youth are easily attracted by these militia group. Studies on conflict and youth radicalization highlight how unmet aspirations of the young people contribute to participation in violence. And sadly, even youth from the church are attracted by these ideologies. Fourth impact, the displacement and the crisis of belonging that I just said over there. Displacement makes people go anywhere, and the communities are broken. And therefore, there's a crisis of belonging. Who am I? Who do I belong to? Our tribal connections are gone. And our Christian communities rarely offer that sense of belonging. As of 2024, over 6.9 million people in DRC are internally displaced. Number. Base, long, it's also identity. There are some stuff.
Jean, the audio is gone a little bit breaking out. Can you please ask the people around you, do not use the internet while you are talking?
I don't know. We still have people using the internet around?
No, we don't have people using the connection, the line we are using. I think
Okay.
it just rained, so it should be, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry.
Displacement. Displacement brings with it, as I was saying, a loss of place, local place, a piece of land that we identify with, identity, where we belong, and therefore the loss of stability. Refugee camps often become permanent instead of being temporal. Yet temporary spaces with few prospect of a durable solution. Often people say, we don't want to be in a refugee camp. Don't give us refugee food. We want to go home to our land. So land remains a deeply contested issue in our area. Return and reintegration are often hindered by unresolved ownership claims and localized conflicts. So displacement in a context like DRC does not merely disrupt livelihoods, but ruptures the very fabric of our collective identity. Hence, producing what we call crisis of belonging. The fifth impact, resilience of the local communities. Despite all these overwhelming challenges that I just cited, the Congolese people continue to demonstrate extraordinary resilience, the will to continue to live. Mutual support networks, women's cooperatives, informal peace efforts and circles, local faith communities are reclaiming agency in areas where formal government has failed, and our government has time and again failed us as a people. These efforts often draw upon deeply rooted cultural and spiritual resources. Rather than being passive victims, many Congolese communities are already engaging, founded in local ways of coming together and creating what we call here at UCBC Tuko Pamoja. A new observations that I just get, political or economic, but relational. Our lives depend on it. The fragmentation of society, system trauma, and weakened institutions call for more than technology intervention, but also local resilience. What is really needed is spiritually grounded, socially embedded, and academically informed approach to hope and peace building. Hence, Christian institutions are needed when critically self-awareness and locally rooted can serve as mediators of memory, of truth, of transformation. Yes, there are some efforts being done. What efforts, responses have we observed to these conflicts and these situations? Responses to the conflict have included, so far as we see it, political, military, and diplomatic efforts, especially from the government side, but also some humanitarian aid and poverty alleviating programs from NGOs, and some church interventions. First, military effort. On the ground, the Congolese military that we call FARDC has attempted operations after operations after operations against the armed groups, but unfortunately, without much success. In many cases, operations are just not successful, due in part to corruption even among the army, where the leaders want to be rich. This being so, the government has made recourse to get the support from forces in the Eastern African community, from the UN, which we call here the MONUSCO, from the Southern African organization, because the government itself has failed to maintain peace in the area. So armed confrontations have continued despite ceasefires after ceasefire agreements, despite the uncertainty of success in military operations. Some still believe that lasting solution will have to be military. That's calling for the government to invest more money in renewing the army. So we are in a militarized area. And the headquarters of our province has moved from Goma, way south of us, to Beni here, where now we have so many soldiers who have run away from the front line. Beni is full of people now. There's also political and diplomatic efforts. The government is also pursuing political solutions, which many others believe maybe it will lead to lasting peace. This is seen through the government's latest commitment to reassert control over its eastern region, also by addressing internal governance challenges in our region. But the coming of the M23 has prompted the renewed call for national unity and national reform, which has not been there now. Although Congolese have a sense of national identity, our unity has not been there because of all the challenges. The diplomatic efforts have been central, both regional, but they have not been successful. We have had the Luanda Accord, the Nairobi, and now we have the Doha process, and now tomorrow we don't know where they will go to try and bring peace together. The third element that we have seen, the effort from non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, and humanitarian and development aid. The insecure situation in Eastern Congo has attracted numerous NGOs. We are a country of NGOs. The city of Goma is made up almost majority by NGOs and people who work for these non-governmental organizations. Both the UN has been here for over 20, 30 years, the UN army, without any success. The NGOs intervene mainly with humanitarian aids in the displaced camps. But only a few of these have really supported the development sector of our people. And often our people say, we don't want this food in the camp. We want to return to our land. We can support ourselves in our life, in our land. So, despite the valuable work being done by NGOs, the needs is still way beyond their capacity. Nevertheless, the main challenge with NGOs is that they are not rooted in the local context and in the local communities. And are project-based with lots of interruptions and for lack of sustainability, it does not permeate the society of Congo. The most recent devastating experience has been the interruption of the USA. We are already feeling the impact of that in our country. Fourth, the ambiguity and promise of the church role, the role of church. Church has been there with promises, but also with so much ambiguity. The church in the DRC occupies a complex and paradoxical space, both as a bearer of hope and at times a participant in political compromise. Historically, the Catholic Church has served as one of the most trusted in Congolese society, often stepping into government vacuums, provide healthcare, education, human rights advocacy, and now the Protestant churches has also rallied. For instance, during the transitional period followed by our former president, Laura Kabila, and his father's assassination in 2001, the Catholic Church played a very strong mediation role and bringing dialogue and advocating for democratic reform to the peace transition of power. And more recently, the Catholic Church with the Protestant Church mobilized faith-based civic action, leading to some type of reconciliation. However, the church's prophetic witness and voice have sometimes been compromised by internal fragmentation, ethnic partialities, and even political entanglement, so that the church will not lend its prophetic voice with you. And yet the church will remain the only institution that people will continue about. Certain denominations have mirrored the ethno-political divisions that plague the wider society, weakening their credibility and unity of the church. While churches across the country have initiated prayer meetings for the nation, the coalitions of the Catholic and the Protestant churches recently is doing much better. And they have gone to meet with the leaders of the rebel group of the M23. And they have gone to Kigali to meet with the President Kagame. They even traveled to Belgium, Italy, and they are doing their best to try and bring reconciliation. Friends, this is the context that we live in. This is the context where Congo Initiative exists. And this is the reason why we started this organization, this world, Congo Initiative. Thank you. One of the first class of students of this institution went on to get his master's degree in Nairobi, get his PhD at OCMS, and today I'm proud to say that even as member of the trustees of OCMS, and that's one of the reasons I love being member of OCMS. John, so our academic. John, what are we doing that from the Christian Bilingual University? Try and address some. So much. How long things to have to speak from this?
Jean, you are not clear.
David was much clearer. Oh, yeah.
I was asking, before we proceed with the next part, I would like to know how much time we still have to speak from Kasali.
How much time then? 10. Take another, yeah, 10. Yes, also. Yeah, it's okay. Take
Yeah.
more time.
Jean, you have 10 minutes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Organizations like Congo Initiative and its university arm, UCBC, which is the Christian Bilingual University of Congo, are responding through a multidimensional framework that combines education, leadership development, trauma healing, civic engagement, and theological formation. These programs are rooted in both contextual analysis and a theological vision of reconciliation as lived, which is public practice. A, transformational education. So this is the first thing we do in response to the context. Transformational education. UCBC provides a bilingual, holistic education, a model that focuses only in academic disciplines, but also in ethical leadership and social responsibility. Through the integration of faith and learning curriculum, students engage with community challenges from a redemptive perspective. They are equipped to be change agents who think theologically and act locally. UCBC's service learning curriculum reinforces classroom knowledge with real knowledge applications in community development, peace building, and advocacy. Last October, UCBC celebrated a 1,000+ alumni milestone, and many of them shared great stories of success, showing the transformation and hope that they are carrying through their service to the community. Under UCBC operates 2 feeder schools, and the second is a special school for the vulnerable, and some of them are orphans and IDPs. B, CIUCBC intervenes in peace building and trauma healing initiatives. Congo Initiative Center for Church Renewal and Global Mission and its Bethesda Counseling Center facilitate community peace dialogues, clergy training, and trauma care workshops. These initiatives draw from models such as narrative therapy and culturally adapted healing cycles, while remaining grounded in the Bible, in biblical understandings of lament, justice, and restoration. The center collaborates with international partners such as Eastern Mennonite University's Center for Justice and Peace Building for curriculum development and facilitator training. C, youth empowerment and civic engagement. Recognizing the urgency of youth marginalization, Congo Initiative UCBC has developed youth-focused programs that build civic consciousness, leadership capacity, and social entrepreneurship skills. These include tech boot camps, leadership retreats, and participatory civic forums. This approach aligns studies showing that inclusive youth programming can reduce vulnerability to recruitment by armed groups and foster positive social norms. From sustainable agriculture training to entrepreneurship incubation, UCBC implements community-led economic development programs that address structural poverty while reinforcing local agency. These initiatives reflect an asset-based community development, ABCD model, emphasizing local knowledge and capacity rather than external dependency. Programs also integrate biblical principles of stewardship and economic justice. E, church empowerment and theological formation. CI, Congo Initiative, works with local churches to revitalize theological education with a focus on peace, justice, and public witness. Through contextualized curricula, pastoral training, and ecumenical forums, the initiative
Hi, John. Can you hear us? We've lost you.
ethnic tensions, trauma, and hope. Justice reinforcement. Through its natural resources governance program, UCBC supports the government with tools that conflict, among others. Through its work, the national land law reforms adopted by the government. The reforms are already being implemented in 3 provinces and will soon be implemented across the country. In our context, lawyers known to be liars, corrupt. In this context, UCBC is responding through its Justice Initiative program that works to strengthen the Christian practitioner lawyers, to strengthen their commitment for kingdom values in their profession. G, global partnerships and knowledge exchange. Congo Initiative and UCBC intentionally cultivate partnerships with institutions in Africa, Europe, and North America to promote mutual learning, faculty and student exchanges, collaborative research, and joint conferences enhance cross-cultural dialogue and strengthen academic and institutional capacity. This engagement reflects an ethic of co-creation and reciprocity rather than extractive mission models. And soon we will also launch our master's degree programs. But also we are preparing to launch a Theology of Persecution Center that aims to preparing the church for persecution. And so OCMS being a global community, we will really need to partner even more with the OCMS alumni and even faculty as we move forward in that direction. Through all these efforts, we aim to embody the gospel's call to be peacemakers, those who walk into fractured spaces, not with simplistic solutions, but with listening hearts, theological imagination, and a commitment to justice. Our work is ongoing, grounded in hope, and carried out in partnership with those longing for a new future in the DRC. In the last 2 minutes, we just say that the world should also respond. And so how should the world respond? First of all, the world should shift from charity to justice. Secondly, the world, the global community, whether the church or other organization, should commit to invest in local institutions and leadership. Because as we said, NGOs are temporary, not really sustainable. So investment should really focus on local institutions and leadership. But also the global community should accompany the church in its prophetic role. Should also support education and trauma healing as pillars of peace, but also strengthen South-South and global academic collaboration. And this, of course, is from both sides, so we should initiate such kind of partnerships. And also, the global community should cultivate a spirituality of solidarity and hope. A spirituality of solidarity and hope. In conclusion, there is still hope in and for the DRC, but we must act now and act together. Thank you so much for your attention.
Jean and David, thank you so much indeed for what you have shared with us. Despite the challenges of the internet, actually we heard the vast majority of what you had to share quite clearly, and I hope others online also were able to hear what you had to share. You have given us a remarkable overview, I think, in terms of an insight into the situation in DRC, the kinds of issues and complexities that you face daily in the challenges of your work, and yet at the same time, this sense of confidence and hope that God is at work amongst you, despite all of these enormous challenges and through these enormous challenges. So I think first thing to say is just, we really, really appreciate what you have shared with us today, and it will continue to be something that we think about a lot. But let me open up for questions. Anyone online who has a question for Dr. David or Dr. Jean, please raise a hand with your emoji or whatever. Let us know that you have a question so that we can draw you in, or put something in the chat. And likewise, colleagues here will, I'm sure, have things to ask you. So, questions or comments?
Sarah is thinking. Thank you, John, and thank you, Dr. Kasali, for this very interesting way of taking us on this. As you were talking, maybe just a comment. As you were talking, I was reflecting, as you said, the paradox that you mentioned, being so rich and yet very, very poor at the same time, which is fundamentally the curse of African countries as it were into this. But I'm also interested in the program that you've developed in the way I'm listening, to try and deal with the situation in a small way. From my perspective, I've been reflecting on the African situation. We are now moving into the Passion Week, and we are thinking about towards Easter. With all the good concepts that comes with it, the Good Friday, then we have the Holy Saturday, and then we have the Sunday coming. And the way I'm listening to you theologically, in fact, is that it appears that for such a long time, if the history that Doc you have traced here is very, very interesting. The genocide that happened in Congo, which many people don't even necessarily know about during the time of Belgium, and the number of Congolese who were taken into slavery as well. Some of the stuff that often people don't know that they have had terrible repercussion on the African humanity in terms of its evolution. But theologically thinking about this on this very, which you didn't say, but comes implicitly in what you say, this stolen Sunday, if we use the metaphors of Easter, the stolen Sunday that you are talking about, the very fact that we seem to be trapped on Saturday, and there isn't so much of certainty of whether there is a Sunday at all. Sometimes when we are using theology, we miss those aspects, whether Sunday would come. But what you are bringing here to us, which I appreciate about just the possibility of a Sunday that would come, but it's not there at all, is the school itself, which I think if we borrow it from the German feminist scholar Dorothy Solly's argument here, or the one from Latin America, Miguel, talking about this window of possibility that you are presenting. I find that very, very interesting and brilliant in terms of what you are doing there, Dr. John, and what you've presented into this. But I'm wondering if this, as you are saying, is in fact a window of possibility for the Sunday to come. How do you see this working into the current challenge of war that is happening? Does that bring any form of hope at all in terms of it? How is a classroom? Sorry, I'm very into ask here, and pardon me for that. How can a classroom become more than just a site of contesting with the mind in terms of conflict, but its excess in the context where the war is the normative? Before I was born, Congo has been fighting. I come from Zambia. Congo has been in this civil war. I have 3 kids. It's still the same. How should we conceive a classroom as a site of this struggle, which you are bringing there? But I can't see the materials that can actually become excess of a class to deal with the actual situation of the context. I don't know whether I'm making any sense. I'm just struggling myself to figure out that.
Thank you very much. Let me start and try to say something about that. To start with, has abandoned
David,
our villages.
David, could you just start again, because we lost you just after you started speaking?
All right. Am I clearer now?
Yeah.
Hello, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good remark and very good question. I want to start by saying that education, as we got it from the West, has abandoned our villages and our communities. African traditional education was in the village, by the village, and for the village. Western education, as we have got it, especially in this country, remove the intellectuals from the villages and places them in offices, in big cities, and they become irrelevant to the issues of their communities. That is the first thing we want to address over here. We want to be educated for our people and within the connection of our people. That's why our education is so complex, and many people do not understand it. When you hear John saying all the community engagement that we do and where we involved in our students, you can see that it's complex, but it's intentional, because we are developing our scholars for our communities. And that is very, very important for us. And I believe that that is our way of responding to your concern there. As long as we continue to do education the way we are doing it in our universities, in our big cities, the academic sharpness will not serve our people, our communities, but will serve individuals who want to be bosses and leaders instead of being servants for their villages. And that's why we're involved in all that John has mentioned here, and involved not only with our centers, but with our students in the centers. One of the first courses that our students get here when they come, we call it DRC Realities, Challenges or Opportunities, because this is why they come here. And it opens their hearts, their minds, to saying, I'm here because I want to contribute in changing my nation. That's what I can add in what you are saying then. And John, maybe you can add something.
Thank you so much. That was a great remark and a good comment, and of course, a good question. It's hard to imagine, and especially from the Western perspective, because I remember my last visit Cambridge at Tyndall House. Simon, he's in charge of the Tyndall House administration. He took me out for lunch, and then one of the questions he asked me was like, John, how do you really do a PhD living in a context that you've just described? So that's the Congolese context. Does a PhD really have any meaning in such a context? Isn't it a loss of time? And I told him, I think a PhD is even more needed there than it is in Cambridge, because we need an academically informed response to the context. And such a response can only be formed in that context, in the same context, within the context. So that's why we really appreciate the OCMS research program, because researchers do their PhDs from their context, and the mission component is very special because it keeps connecting you with your context, with the realities on the ground. And this is what we are doing at UCBC. We need science. We need academic excellence. And of course, part of the challenge in the comments you made, the academic dean, is that we may not have all the needed resources. We may want to have good libraries, such as the Bodleian. We may want to have a good internet connection, like now we are having issues. But we may not have all those things. But doing that from the context, thinking on the issues from the context, within the context, enables us to propose solutions. Just as I said, for example, the Natural Resources Governance Program, one of the main issues that we've been able to solve and we continue to solve for the nation is land conflict. And many people have benefited from that. This is coming from the university, going into the community. And this is because in the classroom, we think about how do we respond to these challenges using current science. I think, yeah, that's what I would say. And the fact that we are biblically grounded really enables us to continuously connect all these things with the biblical hope. And this remains our anger, so that even when things are not going well, we are even happier because we then understand that this is why we are here. This is the reason why we exist. This institution was founded in it's kind of a similar context. And then one would ask, then what is it that has changed after the institution started? Well, a lot has changed, because the big change will come not just from the political angle, as we've shown, the military angle, all of them have shown their limitations. But what we really need to do is, at the same time as the leaders are doing what they're called to do, down here in the community, we should also work hard to transform our community, making them communities that intervene, that contribute to their own transformation for a better future. So thank you so much for that great comment.
Excuse me, may I say just one word on that? Because that's a good question. God willing, I will be sharing at the graduation in June. And unless the Lord changes my theme, my theme would be on bridging the gaps.
Bridging the gaps.
I believe that all academic efforts should serve the kingdom in bridging the gaps. And it's up to us to define what are these gaps that our efforts, our academic efforts are trying to bridge. I don't think we here have any luxury of having an academic endeavor for the sake of academic and writing books for the sake of writing books, but to bridge the gap, to bring solutions, and to be the answers that the Lord wants us in the communities where we are living.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other questions for our two colleagues? Yes, Mutale. And then
Okay, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I was just thinking that usually when there's conflict, there are situations of injustices, the church often comes too late to the rescue or to join the conversation, join into the dialogue of what's happening. But I'm glad to know that there's the Congo initiative happening. And I was just wondering, when you touched briefly on the issue of sexual and gender-based violence, and the situation of conflict, such as war, is fertile ground for such injustices and criminal activities that continue. I was wondering what resources are there for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence within the Congo initiative? Yes.
We did not hear the last part of your question.
Oh, I'm asking, are there any resources for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence within the Congo initiative?
Especially women.
Yeah, especially women and children.
That again is a very, very good question, because our country is known as the capital of rape, and rape has been used as a tool to humiliate villages and communities. And I am a board member not only of OCMS but of Hill Africa in Goma, that specializes in helping women who have been abused and sexually abused. One of the things that we do as an institution here is create a space where women feel safe, loved, and accepted. We are among very few universities in our country where you have 50 plus students as female students. Very rare in my country, because even universities become places of fear for women. Mm-hmm. And here we create a space where they feel accepted and where they can continue with their studies and in their calling. And often you see students who come from the East, and when they finish and they want to get a wife, they go back to their villages, and yet they find women from the classes, their classrooms at UCBC. So there's much intermarriage even between tribal groups in our institution here. Recently, in our management team here at the university, the management group, we created a space just for women affairs and among the leaders in the institution, just to try and cater for women and the women effort. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, and based on what Dr. David just shared, the women are really doing great, especially here on campus. And perhaps let me just say before that across the country, there are very, very few resources to help women and children as far as gender-based violence is concerned. So we have very, very few organizations at our, centers and indigenous communities that are creating space to support women, either who have been abused or preventing abuse. So we have Dr. Dennis Mukwege in South Kivu. In North Kivu, very, very few people really are committed to that. And in Beni, it's even worse. I think we only have only one counseling center, and that is our UCBC counseling center called Bethesda. So coming back on campus here, what happens is that, as Dr. David Kasali said, 52% of our students are women, are ladies. And through the women voices, so we have this organization, called Women Voices. And what these do is that they go out into the community to sensitize the community in regards to respecting, gender, mutual respect between male and female. And this is just bringing a great change within the community as far as their perceptions are concerned. Because we are in a tradition in which really it's hard to find a parent equally invest in the girls as in the boys. It's very hard. But what this group is doing, Women Voices, and it's made, of course, of women, but also men who are called gender champions. So these are part of the group, and they go out in the communities, into the schools, into quarters, and they organize conferences where they play, they speak, they demonstrate, just in order to promote the culture of respecting women equally as they respect men. So that's what I would say. So the need is still great across the country. We don't have meaningful resources that support that vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Han.
Thank you very much, Dr. David and Dr. Jean. It's really good to see you, Dr. Jean, and do please send our best wishes to Linda. It was a joy to be able to work with her when she was here as well. My question, I was intrigued by what you were saying about the biblical understanding of lament. And I guess that's something I'm struggling with myself. What does that actually look like? And I guess it's kind of linked to justice, which is what you were talking about at the end, about how you want the world to respond. You said that you wanted the world to respond from charity to justice. And I wonder whether you could expand a little bit more about what that looks like and what that means, just for greater clarity.
Oh, thank you very much. We in Congo appreciate a lot the charity work that our country has received through these difficult years of the history of our nation. Even myself as a child, after independence, we got this food, flour from the US and all of that. And it has continued even now. There's so many NGOs and charity work being done over here, and we very much appreciate that. Having said that, our land is amazingly blessed by God. We have fertile land, very fertile land. My wife and I, we produce beans 3 times a year. Cocoa, name it, we produce it here. Often people tell those who are coming to feed them, please send us back to our villages. We can support ourselves. We can cultivate our land. So while we thank the world for this charity work and humanitarian work, the people of Congo are saying, we can support ourselves if we have justice in our land, if we have peace in our land, and if they just give us the freedom to be us. I did not believe much in personally in lawyers in school of law because of corruption. Instead of upholding justice, there's so much corruption. But we formed what we call Justice Initiative, where we called together lawyers and judges from our different cities in the East. And we tell them that actually justice is a biblical theme, a strong biblical theme. And upholding justice is a call that God has given to God's people, and that they too are servants of God, because we don't know justice, we know injustice. It's who has money, who knows who, and so that is our story. And so from that justice initiative, we formed the cells of Christian lawyers in the various cities in the East. And after so much discussion at the beginning, it took us about 3-4 years from 2008 when we started it and meeting once a year. Finally, they started understanding that they're there to uphold justice. And we found some friends from the US who work in the justice area, who are Christians. And we would call them to speak, not to teach our people here, but to talk about upholding justice in various contexts. And then we discovered a school in America, in Virginia, that teaches justice from a biblical perspective. And we brought professors from that school to explain how they teach justice in their curriculum in America. And to my amazement, the lawyers here said, we want that type of training of curriculum in here. That's how we started our justice our law school here at UCBC, so that we can raise up people who will uphold justice as something from our call as Christians. So we are saying, we appreciate the humanitarian thing, but what if we would help people to uphold justice in all these challenges that I started enumerating at the beginning, that justice will reign, people will be able to support themselves.
Yeah. One final question.
I will add to that, especially touching the issue of the biblical understanding of lament. We live in a context in which for decades, yes, I was saying, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was saying that we live in a context in which we have been trained or told to suffer silently. Do not speak, because if you speak, then they will kill you. You will suffer even more. And so we are like, no, that's not at all helpful. It doesn't help at all, because we see lamentation of Jeremiah, for example, in the Bible. We see Jesus saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? And so we need to express, we need to lament, but in a biblical way, lamenting with hope, not without hope. And the UN has received reports of violence caused by these armed groups, many of them supported by some multinationals who are after minerals for their industries and so forth. Reports have been sent to the UN again and again, but no action, or perhaps very little action. That's why we say we need a shift from charity to justice, because the UN has been sending lots of money to fund NGOs And yet, if justice is established, we will not need the NGOs, because the people will work freely, will travel freely, will go to their fields and so forth, and then they will feed themselves. That's what I would say about biblical understanding of lament, but also the need for that shift from charity to justice. Thank you.
Jean, thank you very much. So I think we have time for one last question. So
Can I ask my?
oh, yeah, two questions. Sarah and then Gwichun.
Okay, my question is actually when I'm listening to, thank you, Jean. Oh, sorry.
You start.
Yeah,
Okay.
my time was stolen by Cham. Jean, thank you so much for your talk. Actually, one of the things when you were talking about, and then when Chama has also asked you a question, that the conflict in Congo and some of the African and Asian countries is going for many years. And in OCMS, we every Monday and Wednesday, we pray for a list of countries. And sometimes it becomes for me very difficult to pray because I says, okay, we pray and pray and pray. We don't see much change. And then when I was listening to you and talking about charity, changing charity to justice, I started thinking, I says, okay, is prayer kind of action, or action is a prayer? And how can we switch our action to become a prayerful in relation to the justice? If there is a way, what is that way? To, instead of, I agree with you 100%. When some of us, let's say us as an OCMS, away yet at the same time have heart for you and your country and your area and praying for you, or even sometimes we wanted to do a little bit more, we don't know what to do. The only thing comes to our mind is perhaps, for example, charity. And then again, I agree. How can we become an instrument of justice? In that way you are talking about, do we really need to, again, being a part of the OCMS and academic understanding, do we really need to develop a new understanding how this understanding of justice can be an actionable way to support one another? And even if it is, how can OCMS with people like yourself as alumni and together to just form a kind of something called justice or action, or I don't know. Do you know what? I'm struggling to really create my own argument or things. That is, it is coming from my struggle, and the struggling being part of, we pray for the world at least twice here, and sometimes I struggle, literally.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Can you hear us? Can you guys over there hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. That's good point. Thank you for praying. We believe strongly in prayer, and people. Our church is really a praying church over here. Almost every weekend, people have overnight prayer sessions, and this whole chaos in our country has led people to praying, and people love prayer and worship here. So definitely we thank you and continue to ask that you continue to pray. My own response is that prayer must lead to action. And what is the action that God will put in the minds either of an institution like OCMS, or a family, your family, my family, or individuals? Because sometimes prayer can become a hiding space behind engagement. When I went to study in America, there was a famous song that they used to sing and say, God, please don't send me to Africa. I'm just here. I can clean the church. I can do that. And please don't send me to Africa. I think with the prayer, we have to say, as institution, as a people, as individuals, what is the action? It can be a small action, but prayer must lead to action, and not use prayer as a hiding behind my prayer is enough. And that the action can be simple, small engagement. It can be like having a second John at OCMS to train for another person here. John is an amazing guy that you have helped us train over here. It can be something like coming to visit. We are in a dangerous place, but we can also we also receive visitors. Maybe a small group. Paul and I one time we talked about visiting over here. Maybe it's gonna be 1 or 2 people come here and visit. If the place is too dangerous, we cross to Uganda, which is just about an hour drive from here, and we meet in a safe place. We did that about 2-3 weeks ago with a group that came from the US that could not come here, so we took some people from here and go and meet over here, over there. So it can be a trip. It can be a collaborative effort, an academic collaborative effort, writing papers with another faculty over here on certain issues. I know people, especially from the US, who have gotten their PhDs written on issues of our area here. We present so many topics for PhD dissertations, and so with the prayer, I would say again to my word here, how can we bridge the gap? What are the practical ways? That can start small, because our shoes are very, very dirty, and we don't want you to be so dirty, but we want to dirten you a little bit. But through it, I'm sure God will take you a step further as individuals and as a group and as a people. So for God's sake, let's continue to pray and say, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want us to do? What is the action? Because I believe that with prayer, often God asks us to do something about it.
Yes, I will add something to that just quickly, saying that we really need these actions, little, big, we need them. From within, I mean, from the Congo, the Congolese people, and from without, I mean, the global community, we need these actions. However, prayer comes in also because even with these actions, we need God's wisdom, God's guidance, and so forth. Moreover, there are some world leaders who need to make some meaningful decisions for justice to take place. And perhaps we can't reach out to them, we can't touch them. And if we know someone who can speak to someone else, who can speak to another someone, that's great, until these world leaders hear the news and make meaningful decisions for justice. And our president, our current president, regardless, despite his many deficiencies, but he's done well in that regards, because all over the world, people hear now about Congo. But again, even those leaders, they may hear this news. We want God to touch their hearts. We see that in the Bible. Daniel prayed for God to touch the king's heart for justice. Esther prayed God to touch the king's heart for justice. That's why action and justice all go together. But prayer should lead to action. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am sorry, we don't have.
It's fine, it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jean. Thank you so much, David. And David, we are very much looking forward to hear you again in our graduation ceremony in 6th June. And please again join me to say thank you to Jean and David. And there will be, John and David, there will be a good number of people, they will watch out this video. There are more people watching our videos than attending on Zoom here. But we will not have lectures next week. The rest of the April, we will not have lectures, but we will have a lecture on 3rd May. One of the professors in Duke University will present a talk on form of Christian Zionism that seem to be influencing the current president and mentoring of this administration and the consequences of what is happening in US and the rest of the world. Please join on the 3rd May to hear more about that issue. Again, thank you so much, everyone joining us. And God bless you all.
Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
So happy to see you, Dr. Ben. So happy to see you, Dr. Anne, Dr. John, and
We miss
the new
you,
academic
Jean.
dean of
We miss
OCMS.
you.
And how are you doing? BK?
We will not send him back there. He will stay here.
Thank you to all attending online. Thank you.
Yes, John, I wanted to encourage you to, John, I wanted to encourage you to do study on your idea of charity to justice and what is the justice you are talking about.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you so
right.
much. That's a good suggestion.
Yes, take care.
Thank you, Dr. Nkule from Nigeria.
How are you? Nice to see you, Sarah. And
Thank you.
Nice to see you from the too.
BK.
Send our
Take
best
care.
wishes to Linda.
How you
Send a
doing?
lot to Linda.
Okay.
I will. I will
How
pass
is
it
her
to
studies going, Jean? How is her
Dr.
studies?
Dr.
Everybody, bye. And
How is her
Her
studies going?
studies.
yes, I'm happy.
Her studies going on well, progressively, little by little, but she's making progress.
That's
Yes.
really good to hear.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
take care. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.